So good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. Today we have a very special guest, Michelle Pierce. Michelle is an electrical engineer, and in my humble opinion, that is one of the hardest engineering degrees to get. She is the founder of EV Nirvana and is considered one of the electric vehicle pioneers to have her first electrical vehicle in 2012. So she's going to set the record straight on a lot of misinformation that may be out there about how much it costs to charge, how expensive the cars are, what their ranges are, and talk about the benefits being primarily clean air. I mean, exhaust fumes, we can all agree exhaust fumes are not great. So Michelle, please welcome to the show and tell us everything about what you're doing to make the world a better place.
Michelle, did you freeze up on us?
I think we lost Michelle.
But she might want to log off and log back on.
For joy.
I'm so bummed she missed that great introduction of herself. She's such a pioneer, and she's teaching us so much regarding batteries, and lithium at the Salton Sea. And
well, one of the things that she reached out was when we talk about the cost of electric vehicles, she says it's actually not as expensive as people say. So one of the things she's going to talk to us about is, the cost of the vehicles, because we all think of Teslas, and Teslas are what, $80,000 cars? Oh, more than that? How much are they?
More than that.
Depends on the one you get, and then there's the Lucid Air coming out. That's going to be like, I think, 120 to 160,000.
Oh my. Okay, we got Michelle back. Michelle.
Hey, Michelle, you're back.
I'm standing right next to my Wi-Fi, so I
Don't
can't get
move.
any closer.
Don't move.
Well, definitely don't move. Did you hear the wonderful introduction that Wendy put out for you?
I basically said you're a goddess in the industry.
Oh, jeez. No, I'm just an advocate. It's just what I'm passionate about is all. I'm trying to move my closet door so you don't see us in the closet.
So being a pioneer in electric vehicles back in 2012, when most of us were like, why would I get an electric vehicle? I mean, this makes no sense. Where do I charge it? How do I do this? You just jumped in feet first and said that I'm going for it. So tell us about that journey in starting EV Nirvana.
It's really a long journey in terms of just buying the car. Initially, I'm trying to set myself up, sorry, for all the technical difficulties. Okay. I bought the car because I can't even remember how long, but I've always wanted an electric car. I don't like gas cars because it's stinky and carbon monoxide. I get nauseous. So it's something I've always wanted is an electric car. And always kind of watched. I wanted the EV1, I guess, the GM first car, but at the time I couldn't afford it. And so when the Leaf came out, I didn't really like the look of it, but got it anyway.
They're getting better with design.
Fell in love with it anyway because it's such a fantastic car. It was a perfect first car, and then the Teslas came out and it's like, oh man, I want one of those, but no way near my budget. But I was one of the pioneers because back then there was no such thing as DC fast charging in anywhere.
Yeah.
So unfortunately I bought a car that didn't have DC fast charging. They come either or, and I wanted a certain color, so I just got the color I wanted. So I love it. Was telling everybody about it. Everybody that I could, I'd take for a ride in it. At one point, I remember I was dating this guy, and he was semi-interested in electric cars, but never been in one. And then I drove in my car, and he went out and bought a Tesla. This is like a 2014 era.
Oh wow, that was hard to get a Tesla back then.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people need the encouragement and the understanding in order to want to buy an electric vehicle. There's lots of problems with or issues with people finding charging what have you. But I think once people really understand the technology and get that first entree into what electric vehicles are, it changes people's lives. I have people stop me at the grocery store and ask me about charging and all of the particulars that go along with it. And,
well, let's talk about charging.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to people. So just so people know, there's a level 1, 2, and 3 chargers. So level 1 is like the plug in your garage, basically.
Yeah,
and
plug in it's like a toaster. Is what
it's
I
like
say.
a toaster. Level 2 is a little bit faster. What does that take? Like 3 or 4 hours to charge?
It depends on your battery and your car. Fiat, for example, would charge a lot quicker because it's got a smaller battery. My 2012 Leaf charges faster because it's got a smaller battery. My 2020 Bolt has a much larger battery, so it takes, considerably longer. It's all physics and engineering. The bigger the battery, the longer it's going to take to charge at 240.
See, I'm just wishing and hoping someday someone makes a modular battery where you can just pop it out, replace it with a new one.
They're working on that.
In China.
They're working on that.
Thank God.
Yeah, there's a Chinese brand that you actually drive over like a plate. You pull in the parking slot or
Like
whatever. It takes the old battery out and then it slips a new one in and then you keep going. I don't know how conceptual it is, but yeah, they are working on it.
That's what we need. We need that fast. So when people don't like being inconvenienced. They don't want to say, oh, I have to go to this parking lot and wait 3 hours to charge. And then,
But you need to finish the conversation you were starting. You started with
EV
level
1, 2,
1, level 2, and then there's DC fast charging. Level 3 is not engineering the right term. I know it's used for DC fast charging, but technically it's DC fast charging, not level 3. Level 3 is something different.
Oh, what is that then? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just engineering terms. You know how everything is done by codes and standards. It's level 3 is just a different standard than DC fast charging. People use it all the time, but I just thought I'm in a place I'll correct you because I was corrected. I was calling it level 3 for years too.
No, I love it. See, and that's the thing we need. There's a wealth of information out there, but it's a lot very quickly.
Yeah, and that's why I formed my company in 2015 to help that. But how do you make money at it?
Now people are catching on now, though. I mean, we're slow to adopt, but we're getting there.
It's like a world of difference between 2012 and today.
Yes.
World of difference.
That is very true. So DC fast charging, I had a conversation with a guy yesterday because we were talking about EV to grid charging. So that's where the car has excess energy stored in its battery and it fills a grid for a municipality, a city, whatever, and kind of vice versa. So it's really for like long-term or overnight parking where the excess energy is shared. So with the DC fast charging, with this new technology or this new EV to grid, you need AC, you need like bidirectional charging.
Yeah, okay. You're talking apples and oranges right now.
Yeah. I mean, but then you have to rip everything out and replace it. Is that?
No, vehicle to grid isn't new. Vehicle to grid existed back before the Leaf was available. In Japan, it's enabled in the Leaf, but not in the US made cars. It's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a mystery, but there's lots of liability involved. Oh. So, the Leaf is known for its degradation of the battery. So you're discharging and charging more. So potentially you degrade your battery faster by using vehicle to grid. So that exists. That's why most of the cars don't have the capability built in. Something about voiding your warranty. I'm not absolutely sure. But vehicle to grid is something that they've been studying for years, and it is the future. It will be for vehicles like maybe a school bus that okay, you drive it in the morning, drop the kids off, or you pick them up, drop them off at school. Maybe you plug them in for vehicle to grid midday and then charge it up again, because actually it would work better the other way. Drop the kids off, charge it at the bus depot, and then pick the kids up after school and then get back, and whatever's left you could do vehicle to grid when it's needed most from 4 to 9. Yes. And then charge it after midnight when the demand of the grid is not that high.
Very true.
That's the direction vehicle to grid is going in, not the home use. The home use might come in handy during blackouts. But in terms of,
well, we learned in Texas, it worked out pretty well.
Exactly. There are people that really did in Texas use their Teslas to, people slept in their Teslas because they had heat,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's so much to talk about. So go ahead. I just wanted to clarify that vehicle to grid and DC fast charging are not the same thing. Vehicle to grid is usually AC only. I haven't heard of any. It would be. I think it's really complicated at the DC level. So DC,
Michelle, you also really follow like the lithium mining at the Salton Sea.
I only started doing that.
Well, tell us what you know. This is about learning, no shaming, no blaming. Yeah, I really would like to get some more perspective of what's going on with the whole process.
I really don't know, and that's why I contacted you guys about it, because I belong to a group called Association of Women in Water, Energy, and the Environment, and we want to have, a webinar, not really a webinar, a meeting about it. And usually what we do is we have somebody that knows a lot about a subject, and, right now everything's online. So, and it's at lunchtime. So we were looking for somebody that knew about the lithium it started with the lithium, now it's grown into, and that's why I contacted Wendy, is the environmental end of things. We want to, those of us that care about the environment want to make sure that, the lithium mining would be good, but we need to make sure that whatever does happen there, it doesn't destroy the Salton Sea and the surrounding areas. And I think the California government is on board with that. And
definitely, they just put a new czar in place that's just going to deal with Salton Sea and lithium mining. So it's definitely on the governor's radar out here. I just pray that it turns into what they want, that we'll get enough lithium out of the project, that it will provide jobs for people in a place that's been desolate for, I don't know how long. But there's a lot of aspects to it, but I guess we have to wait and see. It's kind of a big undertaking.
But not to disrupt the existing community.
That's right.
Yeah, that's important. They've been there for years. Shouldn't go in, and we've learned over history that's not the good thing to do.
That's where the social justice checks in. You got to consider the community, and you can't just go in with a bunch of bulldozers, suck everything out, and say thanks, bye.
Yep.
You can do it, consciously.
Exactly. And it'd be good to restore the sea to back in the 50s when it was used as a recreational.
It was a resort community.
Yeah. Instead of what it is now, where it's not really pleasant to.
It has an odor. And it was a dumping ground for a lot of the agricultural fertilizer, and so that all is when the Salton Sea is drying out. So there is some dust that is kind of toxic, so it blows towards Palm Springs. But they are there. I read one paper where they're talking about digging a canal I believe from the Sea of Cortez or Baja Peninsula area, and refilling it. So that would be interesting if done correctly and,
exactly,
consciously. But back to setting us straight on electric vehicles and a lot of misconceptions. If you had just 3 things that you would want people to know and understand, what would those top 3? Because it's such a huge topic. So the top 3 things that you want people just to get out of their head and get straight, what would those be?
Okay, that electric vehicles have 0 emissions. That means they're never polluting. Battery-only electric vehicles never pollute the air because they don't have emissions, 0 emissions. That's number 1. That's my passion. Number 2, and I'm finding out, not necessarily easily, but that you can, I had to move to an apartment recently, you can drive an electric vehicle and not have charging at night. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And if you don't want to do it, it's probably not going to happen. But if you do want an electric vehicle and you don't have access to charging where you live, it is possible with the public charging that's out there now. There's so much going in every day. And what I personally do is I charge DC fast charging almost exclusively. And I've kind of found the least expensive locations because each location charges differently. There's different types of DC fast charging. EV Go was one of the first to be established, and they are on the more expensive side because they charge per the minute. And with my car, it can get to be like $8 minimum to have a decent charge because the Chevy Bolt has a lower charge rate than some other cars similar.
Okay.
So charging per the minute ends up being more expensive. Whereas cars for example, where I charge at a charge point charger mostly that has charges by the kilowatt hour, and they only charge 20 cents. So I can charge reasonably. It's usually around $5 every time. And so how often do I have to charge? But it always depends on how much I'm driving. I work part-time, and I recently went back to having to go to work. And so I'm charging more and more now. So
the good news is I think Tesla announced that they're going to be opening up their charging stations to everybody pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that's only going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to include the DC fast or if they were just saying they're going to do the level 2, because there are a few stations, Tesla's supercharger locations, at least one in Riverside, Moreno Valley area at a Target, that they put in their superchargers, the high speed superchargers, and then they have level 2 stations next to it. So I don't know if that's what they mean, or if they may not mean that they're going to put CCS in Chatamo there.
Well, the part is like when you're driving, because I know people who have electric car and they go online, we're driving around and they need to charge it, so they find a place to park and go, and then you get there and it doesn't work. That's one of my pet peeves and especially with COVID, I guess they just don't have the manpower to fix the chargers as they break. There's another free one that I go to, and it's broken in Moreno Valley, close to the other. So how often do you find yourself charging, and what's your monthly for that?
Well, that's the thing. For example, during COVID, driving was very minimal.
No, we don't count. Nobody drove during COVID.
Well, no, I'm trying to give you a dollar amount. I found out midway, I got the car just before COVID, because I was using EV Go, but I was only using it once a month. So they said, no, you don't get the special rate unless you charge twice a month. So I started charging twice a month. I started just venturing out more. And that was about $15 a month, roughly. but that's making myself charge more, doing things. But then I discovered that, there's these new ones that charge per the kilowatt hour, and they cost less. So now I'm probably spending like $20-$30 a month.
That's not bad.
Charging.
That's really good.
But a couple trips to San Diego and that will blow the budget. But there are a couple free ones on the way. So you just
favorite free one.
There's an app called PlugShare.
Yeah.
That's what everybody that drives an EV needs to have on their phone. It's PlugShare. And how it works is it's kind of community based. The community posts the locations of the chargers and the information on it. And if you what's the word? Not log in. You check in when you get there. So if I see recent check-ins that people charge successfully, I know it's working. If I see that there's been no check-ins, for a year, I'm not going to that one. And also you can search by what you're looking for. You're looking for level 2 only. You're looking for Tesla. You're looking for DCFC. You can search by that. So PlugShare is the Bible for EV drivers.
That's good to know. And yeah, I'm glad you brought up the different types of plugs, because when I first started learning about EVs, I was shocked that there was no universal plug.
Yeah.
They're working on it. They're getting there. But I was just
like anything engineering, it all started because engineers could not agree. Theirs was best. That's why Elon has his, and why the Japanese had theirs, and the CCS is sort of going towards being standard for non-Tesla. Because even Nissan's starting to do CCS instead of CHAdeMO.
For people that, so getting back to the original point of setting the record straight, it is possible to charge cheaply.
Yes. There's another brand, and this one's always free, called Volta, but it's level 2 and it's really slow. And I've met people at these stations that this one retired guy, I remember, he sticks in my head. I think he just every Sunday morning, whatever morning it was, he goes and he charges his car at this Volta station because it's probably close to his house and they're shopping there. And that's where Volta puts their free charging at shopping centers. And they get their revenue from advertising. That's how they have it for free.
Yeah. See, that's what I anticipate, because I know that's been one of the biggest issues is a lot of the chargers. Like I know there was a few, I think 7-Elevens had installed them and they took them out because they didn't make any money. And it's going to be kind of like, eventually it'll turn into like what you see when you go to the gas station. You're filling up and you're bombarded with the TVs right there that are just blaring ads. And I'm like, so there's got to be a way to find the revenue to make the charging points more common.
Yeah, the Volta is it's all just visual, no audio.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because they get loud at the gas station.
Yeah, at the gas stations. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very slow. Very slow.
But I forgot where it's going. Volta
charging time frame efficiency.
Joel said something that I thought, lost it. That's my senior brain.
But I do think that that's going to be one of the biggest issues moving forward is, like I'm going to bring a lot of stuff together here, but like one, the cost of the cars is a big issue for people to purchase.
Oh, let me interject, because that's why EV Nirvana was formed. Number one, to get the education out to the public. Number two, if you want an EV, I've met people that got them for free because there's lots of programs out there for low income people.
Yeah.
And used EVs are cheap. Yeah. I sold my Bolt for $4,500 and they're still driving. The people that bought it are still driving it every day.
But I think, so the cost, there's ways around it. Got that.
Yeah.
It's also going to be a matter of charge. There's still range anxiety is going to exist, even though I think people need to kind of really look at how much you drive. Most people don't drive 300 or 400 miles in a day.
Right.
You just don't. So
what is the average range?
There's no average right now because, in the early days there was Tesla and Nissan, or the Chevy Volt, the hybrid. So now there's so many different choices. I don't know if anybody's ever figured out an average, because you got the low end Fiats, Nissans that, you get 60, 70 mile range, but now my Bolt gets 250 mile range, and they're coming with 250 mile range.
Actually, I saw an article this morning and they ranked them, and they said these are the ones with the most mileage, and they were ranging, I think the EPA estimate for them is like 110. And that was the lowest one, and then it went up to like over 300 for the Tesla. Mind you, that's
EPA. That's not.
Oh no, that's not real world. That's not.
No, that's not range. That's not range.
No, that's what they were saying. It was on the range for a full charge, because they ranked the article based on the cars, and so it's obviously based on windows are up, no AC, you're cruising at the actual speed limit, like you're doing everything that nobody does.
Conditions.
Yeah, So, but I think the range anxiety is still an issue for people. The charging thing is becoming, as I'm seeing people who have them, that's a little bit of a concern, because you've got to find the places to charge and make sure that they're working. That's going to be the next big hurdle, is to make sure there's actually enough charging for people to use. That's
something that everybody's working on. So just like, I remember talking to somebody way back that they remember when the five between LA and San Francisco was first put in, that there weren't gas stations along there for a lot of cars. Like if your car didn't go far on a full tank, you couldn't drive the 5 because there weren't enough gas stations. Yeah. So everything evolves.
Exactly.
So right now, it's an issue, but there are tons and tons of people working on it. And if you really want to drive an electric vehicle, you can.
Exactly.
So it's just, there are.
You have to learn to adapt.
Exactly. You just need to. For me, I notice I'm on Facebook a lot, and there's a bunch of different groups. Like I belong to a Chevy Bolt group, and that group is awesome because people ask questions and immediately answers are given. Immediately, because it's like got a few 100,000 members on it. So, or maybe not a few 100,000, but a few thousand members. So there's information out there, and the California government, I know, there's Veloz, there's Forth, there's all sorts of organizations out there that are committed to education and getting the information out about how to drive electric vehicles, your limitations. Like, it's a long story, but I remember being at one charging station where this girl comes up and she's driving a Fiat 500Es won't ever have DC fast charging. She pulls up to a DC fast charger and is looking at the connector and looking at her car. I'm going, you can't charge here. What? And luckily there was a level 2 right next to it. So I said, you need to charge here. So there needs to be education at the dealership for some of these cars. And that's sort of why I formed my company, is to educate people, because I saw this over and over and over. But a lot of people just want to buy the car and drive. And it's like, there's a little bit more to it than that.
Well, it's still, the EVs have been around for, about a decade, give or take. And so when you start looking at the reality of it, we're still in the infancy of this whole transfer. But it's going to be fascinating, because basically by 2030, some places are banning the new internal combustion engines altogether. So I'm like, okay, that clock is ticking. But so we're trying to basically redo the entire automotive industry, something that took decades to do in the span of about 15 years. And so that's going to be huge hurdles, because it's not just that. It's how do we got to make sure our infrastructure grid is in place to sustain all of these things. I mean, there's so many moving parts.
Believe me, electric utilities are looking forward to that problem.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure they are. I do love the fact you brought up the adaptation, because back when gasoline vehicles were new, there were not enough gas stations. So people would just have gas tanks strapped to the side of their car because they knew they'd run out in the middle of nowhere.
What can go wrong?
I'm sorry?
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Oh, trust me, it'd blow up. But little things in life. But more importantly is we're kind of dealing with that now, where it's just like, it's the best idea, it's the best option, it's the safest option, it's the cleanest option. You just have to plan. We're not used to planning the way we did. We don't have the convenience factor right now that we're so used to. What?
We just want instant gratification.
Well, of course we do. It's how we live.
Yeah.
That's what I found out the hard way with my business is I try to educate people. They call and be telling them about the cars, and they just want the car. They don't want to hear anything that I was saying.
Exactly.
It's like,
just give them a cheat sheet. Just give them a little laminated cheat sheet. Just be like, this is what you need.
Well, it didn't. I just gave up. So, so I'm trying to find other avenues to get the word out. But the state, for sure, there is so much out there. I spend my days that when I'm not working just on webinars. The truck and transportation industries are moving electric, and there's so many webinars right now put on by different agencies and different, I think Ford even had one that I missed yesterday because I was at work. So people are putting the information out there for everybody. You don't have to pay for a lot of these webinars. So the information is available for people, fleet managers, whoever, to learn about the vehicles in general and what they're going to need to do. So, and charging, they start with the EV 101, the charging, the batteries, all that information. And then they move on from there. That's how I learned so much about, the vehicle to grid and everything.
That's a lot. No, it's a lot though.
Learning about what's out there, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I just need to get the word out that charging is not necessarily expensive. If you charge at home, it's not expensive. If you charge
in the right hours. Joy has a very bad experience with the wrong hours.
During the right hours, exactly.
Oh, did you get the electric bill that?
Oh yeah, that just shot through the roof. Yeah. But you learn, and you can drastically decrease the prices.
Exactly. And that's what, being an engineer in the electric utility industry, I understand, the whole big concept of, electricity has to be used when it's made, kind of thing. And that's what makes it difficult. You can store water, you can store gas, you can store natural gas and petroleum gas, but it's very the industry has not stored electricity. There's always been there's always been like pumped hydro, and this is used actually now for just regular electric generation, where there's a lower lake and a higher lake, and off peak you pump the water up to the higher lake, and when you need the electricity you open the dam and it generates electricity. And so that's it's been used for generations, that one, but there's going to be more and more battery. Good use of used batteries is storage.
A lot of people are recycling the batteries now. Thank God. They weren't for a while. That was a problem. But no, this has been a wealth of information. And I like the fact that, education is so important. And that's what we're doing here as well, is just trying to tell people in a very open platform and a friendly platform that it's okay if people don't know. And that's what the big scary thing is with new technology. People are afraid to ask. And what you're doing, Michelle, is fantastic with EV Nirvana, with the educating of people. If it's okay if you don't know, I'm going to tell you how to do it. And it's a slow adaptation process. And that's just the best platform to possibly be on. And we have one question from my friend Oscar, who's a dear friend from UCLA. is how much does maintenance service cost and how often is the engine service required? I have no idea.
There's no engine, number one. In a pure battery electric. In the plug-in hybrid, yeah, there's an engine. But for my Leaf, the only time I took it in for service was, if you have time, it's a long story, but to get my battery changed out under warranty, my traction battery. It's weird that I became a car dealer because I hate car dealers. I hate the way
you're evangelizing for what you believe in. So I wouldn't call it so much salesmanship, but
so, but basically I never took my Leaf in for service. Sorry. You're supposed to.
Nor do I.
But
that's good. It's like very low to non-existent maintenance required and no engine. So people are just so accustomed to thinking car engine. There isn't one. It's a battery.
Yeah.
There's no internal combustion.
You still have to rotate your tires and change tires, when they become bare, and your wipers do run out too. And that's basically all I did. And the fluid to make the wipers go,
Yeah, just the basics, windshield wiper fluid, brakes. And so to close out, what is the one thing you want to leave people with just to get them over that hurdle, that fear factor of change?
I don't know what the fear factor, because it's something I've always wanted, and I can't convince my own adult children to convert, but things are changing. We eventually will have charging at apartments. We will eventually, have charging at condos. Charging at night is the easiest, best way to charge a car. Just don't be afraid. If you're really interested, there's tons of activities all the time to learn about EVs. You can always walk into a Tesla center and they will tell you a lot. You can even get a test drive. And you got to remember, though, that's the really, really good cars. Once ride and drives start back up, National Drive Electric Week from Plug-in America, that's going to be the last week of September. There's going to be tons of events. Hopefully, we'll get butts in seats. COVID won't be an issue back. Looking forward to that. But there's an event in Orange County coming up. I keep getting the ads in Facebook for. Just lots of information out there. Don't close your mind, but just open your mind. Talk to people at chargers. Most people, if we're not in a hurry, I will stop and talk to somebody for a long time.
Awesome.
If they have questions. So don't be afraid to ask. If somebody's rude to you, try the next one. But
people love to talk about their
exactly.
electric
Oh my God, yes.
Joy's just like, yeah, trust me. There's also the Net Zero conference coming up, I believe, mid-September. That's a big annual conference handled that they just opened registration, I think, yesterday. So there's a wealth of knowledge, and it's available to everybody.
Yep.
And that's what I love about this industry. The environmental groups, the sustainability groups, everyone wants to help. There's no elitism here. We just want people to know and help and educate and progress to a better life for all of us.
Exactly.
So on that, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
This was amazing. The knowledge that you have is huge. So people, please look up Michelle Pierce, EV Nirvana. She's all over the place. Go to LinkedIn, Facebook, you can find her. But this is the knowledge we need to get out there. This is the information we need to get out there. So thank you again. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.
Bye.